Welcome to this segment of Weeds, Not Weapons. This is the inaugural show, and my good friend and brilliant organizer, Noah Potter, will be the first guest. Now, Noah has an impressive resume. He is on the planning committee of the New York City Cannabis Parade. He's a member of council to the Hoban Law Group, former chair of the New York City Bar Association on Drugs and the Law, member of New York City Cannabis Bar Association. He's also the author of a very important blog, the New Amsterdam Psychedelic Law blog. We're going to ask you to get your pen and paper, and he will tell you how you can get to that later. Definitely, we believe the war on drugs as a whole is a war on human development, human psyche. It's a way of incarcerating Black and Latino, or, minorities. I guess the majority in the world. The whole Michelle Alexander paradigm from slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration. But we don't want to just talk about legalizing things or legalizing drugs or pot. We want to talk about what we actually do to do it, and we are part of the New York City Cannabis Parade and Rally. And the New York City Cannabis Parade and Rally has been going on since 1973.
Something like that. No, I'm not sure anybody really knows. There's different opinions, but something like 73.
Right, and there's different smoke-ins and different fits and starts, founded by the great Yippie Dana Beal. And this cannabis march is created the culture and the social conditions where they took marijuana as a fringe issue, and now it's a mainstream. So Noah is on the planning committee of the New York City Cannabis Parade. So could you tell us what we can expect this year and where we can march?
Sure. Well, the Cannabis Parade takes place the first Saturday in May every year. That's the fixed date. Not 420. People want to know, what the relation is with 420. Different tradition. So first Saturday in May, the event, there's a parade component or a march. There's an assembly point in Midtown that becomes a parade, goes to Union Square, and the parade finishes with a rally and concert in the South Plaza of Union. Well, it's been in the South Plaza of Union Square for the last 5 or 6 years. There are speakers, there's music, there's a lot of people. So it is a part of the original, authentic, countercultural tradition of New York City that's still survived on a par with the Pride Parade and the Halloween Parade, etc. It's the same genre. Continues, and
it's sort of morphed into sort of our version of the Mardi Gras in some sense, minus the alcohol.
Well, it's a variety of things. It's a political statement.
Political statement. Could you repeat that?
It's a political statement. Sure. I mean, it was a big deal to come out in a group and assert your rights as drug users, right? Big deal.
We're just talking about pot, not
right.
even everything.
Well, those haven't gone mass movement yet.
Right.
Like there's no street level activism around MDMA and Ibogaine, which you would expect. That's a natural. Psilocybin, all that might come soon.
In Europe, there is. They have the drug users union, right? NCODE.
Right. Well, NCODE, I think is. NCODE. I'm not sure if that's a drug users union, but sure. I mean, supposedly, so I understand there are. Well, yeah. Right. There's drug users associations. Right. So it's a big deal to come out. So it's a political statement. There is a festival atmosphere. Again, when you mix, the counterculture and political statement are kind of the same thing, but certainly there is an expression of the multi-generations of the New York City counterculture. And
but it's also the new culture. I mean, it's hip hop and hippies. We're not just like.
That's great branding.
Yeah, it's not just 1960s. This is current music.
I gotta write this down.
Okay.
That's really something.
Hip hop and hippies. Woo!
Yeah, man. Let's go.
Because it's also the most multi-ethnic of all. Well, I don't know if it's the most, but it's definitely equal of the pride when it comes to multi-ethnic.
Yeah, it's it's a
It's
diverse,
very diverse
group.
crowd. You know, we have hip hop, we have hippie music, we have all kinds of things. Redman played there once.
Redman twice. Redman performed in 20.
Right.
I think it was 2012 and 2014. So not that he doesn't come every year, obviously, but he has been known to appear. So yeah.
Right, and some of the other acts.
They're not. Let's see. Any other name acts? Well, there's Raheem.
Raheem, yeah.
Performs. He's performed, several years, going back to maybe 2015, possibly. So, but other acts, I gotta confess, I don't really do the music. I don't focus on the music aspect. I focus on the relations with the city and speaker organization, sponsorship, and so on.
Okay, and the speakers, we've had numerous politicians speak. This
Yes.
year, Howie Hawkins he's the Green Party's candidate for governor. He's made a soft commitment. We have...
So there are people who have been contacted and
Right.
with whom I'm in conversation.
Don't give their names, but
I'm not going to give their names.
just the people who...
There's one person, so which is, this is perfect for him. Richard Gottfried, New York State Assembly member from the Upper West Side, the architect of cannabis legalization in New York State, like I guess really the icebreaker, began in 1977. So he is going to speak for the second time.
This is actually a politician we actually like. They're few and far between. He's good on housing, I assume. He's good on.
I can't speak. He's the chair of the health committee.
He's the chair of the health committee,
and
and he loves pot.
There's presumably it's a matter of shaping a conversation, and that's what this is doing, is to put out talking points and to call people to state their position, explain what is this drug policy, like how does it work, what's their opinion, they think it works, they think it doesn't work, it's good, bad, so you could...
Well, this leads to what we're talking about, like on the state level we have the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act proposed by Upper East Side State Senator Liz Kruger, and the Assembly version is sponsored by Crystal People-Stokes, a Assembly person up in Buffalo. Now, yes, I am agreeing. I'm not promoting the Democrats. I'm just giving you the political scene. I have to say that. So you're talking about Corey Johnson works on the city level, on the state level. The big issue in New York State, I'm not talking about the other states, I'm just talking about New York State, is the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act. I'm going to call it MARTA.
MARTA, I'll go with you.
Okay, so MARTA. And then so could you talk about MARTA and then lead into how that fits into city politics?
Sure. So...
Because the state and New York City are two different animals at this point, although there is some kind of...
heavy overlap.
There's a heavy overlap, especially in policing.
Yeah?
Well, because, the city and the state, there's state troopers and there's New York City cops.
Okay, right.
And so there's overlapping jurisdictions. So the city theoretically could say, well, we're going to legalize pot in New York City.
Right, you can't do that.
But they can just have only New York City cops won't arrest you, but the state cops will arrest you, and that's what goes on in California.
How many state cops are in the city other than in Grand Central?
I see them parked. Well, they could send more in. They could do whatever they want. I seen them parked along the Whitestone Expressway, and I seen them along the main thoroughfares by the bridges and stuff. There's not a lot of presence of New York, because the state. Why should they pay for sending? Because they got all these. But if you get a hardcore Republican he could send in the state troopers.
Well, okay, so that's a matter of skill. The organizers. The advocates don't want that to happen.
There's no danger of that right now.
Sure, but I'm saying that that image of where things are going, where things could go, that I'd like to think is a matter of the skill of the organizers. Because if that happens, it means the organizers failed. It doesn't have to go that way.
Well,
there's other possible futures.
What I'm giving you was a theoretical overlap. There's really New York State is pro-pot. What's holding up the full legalization is that they're arguing over who gets to profiteer. So what they do is, and they tried this in Ohio and other states, where they have licensing schemes that basically create monopolies for a narrow segment. That's what they did in New York State with the Compassionate Care Act. They started out with 5 licenses. Of those 5 licenses, none of them except for one, the Mount Sinai people, are heavy-duty medical people. One was a road construction crew.
Okay, right.
So, a road construction crew, there's a lot of...
Hey, listen, what are you going to do? I mean...
But they've been dealing with the state for 90 years, so of course they have ins, they know who to talk to. There are stories by Wayne Barrett. I'm here to talk to you, not me, but I'll finish. Wayne Barrett uncovered the fact that one firm gave Al D'Amato, who has Governor Cuomo's ear, $180,000 just to write a pro-pot letter. And so
That's
Wayne,
pretty serious.
yeah, I sent you all this stuff. So
no, I saw the article. So first of all, I gotta say I'm not familiar with those dimensions of things, so I can't comment on that. I mean, I understand there's a variety of allegations and questions. All I know is that just on the face of the system, it takes a huge amount of money to apply for one of those licenses, and you know that you're going to lose money for many years. It was a system that was designed to fail. I mean, it's like no doubt in my mind. So that's who can survive in such a system. I mean, it was like set up so that only huge money could come in.
Right, exactly. But they didn't have to set it up that way.
Oh no, for sure.
That was a sellout. That's why even though State Senator Diane Savino from Staten Island is the one that supposedly figured out the compromise that Governor Cuomo is willing to sign in order to get the Compassionate Care Act. A lot of people felt that the compromise makes it not really viable, and that the social pressure on Cuomo was so great he had to do it, and that they had like this 11-year-old kid with epilepsy have an epileptic seizure right there in the Senate hearings before the governor. So all the backtracking is not because they're doing us a favor. Don't ever think they're doing us a favor. If we're the majority, they have to do it.
Well, our representatives.
Our representatives. And they want to play all these games. So you have a road construction crew, got one of the licenses. You have 3 out-of-state venture capitalists, with sort of pharmaceutical things.
Well, I think not to contradict you, but I would note my understanding. They're multi-state players. They're
right.
Entities that are operating in multi-states.
Right.
So I mean, to say they're out of state, yeah. I mean,
well, they're not. They're out of this state.
They're based somewhere else, but they're operating. I don't remember the specifics. My recollection is that's you're referring to some of the other licensees.
Yeah, one is from Minnesota, one is from like Connecticut or something. And the point I'm trying to make is that the Greens and hardcore activists are saying that we want multiple licenses, right? They shouldn't be cost prohibitive for small business people. No more than 5,000 or 6,000. Right now in the MARTA, the big thing is, and this is, we've had talks with Liz Kruger about this, is that they break the industry up into 4 categories: wholesale, retail, production, and distribution. Each category is a separate licensing thing. And in order to have a license in one category, you cannot have any fiduciary, corporate, or whatever relationships.
The other 3. Some. Not all of them. There are categories in which you can have multiple licenses. A little bit complicated. It's not so...
Well, that's the version we read.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's what Kruger's advocate. The one exception is if you own like a coffee shop that sells... Yeah, then you can produce and sell your own. That's the one that... Maybe I could have missed something. And there's all these... You're lawyers, There's all these legalese they slip in there that I might have missed.
Yeah.
But that's what
legalese is there for reasons. It's legal documents. If you write a document, you should write legal document.
Right,
write it in legalese.
But State Senator Liz Kruger says that's a horizontal integration, whereas vertical means from you get the license for production to distribution to selling point. You get everything, and so what we're advocating for is you can only have one license in one category, and they have thousands or hundreds or whatever. Like I don't know how big the state is, So
it's unlimited. There's no fixed limit.
Well,
licenses.
You could do it like that too if you want.
Well, I mean, as the last that I saw, the version that I saw from.
Well, there's no number period, so they could change. They left that part as vague.
Yeah, no, I think there's no cap. That's one of the differences, is that the CCA is set up to cap the number of suppliers in the market.
But remember, this is the bill that's not finished. This is the bill as written, so that when they start talking about it, they're going to put a number on each category.
Sure.
They left that. Some of this stuff is purposely left vague.
Well, and you've got to have negotiating room. If you're going to start out with good demands, and then you got to get negotiated down by your opposition.
Well, and this is where we come in. We get to know the bill. It's not enough to be for legalizing pot. Read the bill, and then you can outline it or the things that are important. There's a lot of stuff in there, like how big the lettering has to be on the trucks. Really stuff that no one really cares about, but maybe policy wonks and traffic. But the key parts are: do they let felons get licenses? How many licenses in each category? Will they totally change it and get rid of the horizontality and make it vertical from production, in which only a few companies get the licenses, and they'll do that in the name of health and safety? That's why you have to know these things, because this is the way the bill's written now. Most of it is pretty good. But that doesn't mean that's the bill you're going to get when they start fighting.
Yeah.
And absolutely. We can put pressure on upstate Republicans.
Look, legalization is doable.
Yeah.
Legalization in New York State is totally doable. It's just that it's got to be done. So, you identify your legislators and identify legislators.
Well, just call your own.
Call for sure. Here's a thought in terms of target.
Yeah.
So, proposal.
Yeah.
The bill, the MARTA, got introduced into each house and is sitting in a committee.
Right.
So you find the members of the committee, and you find their constituents, and you get their constituents to start telling them, vote the bill out of committee.
Exactly.
So it's just like puzzle pieces.
Say you have a cousin in a different district, and if you're watching this, we're assuming you like pot.
There could be people out there who just want to understand policy.
Or you either like state government policy, that's your thing,
right?
Or you like pot, or ideally you like both.
Hey, listen, no discrimination.
No discrimination. Hopefully you'll have a cousin, a friend, someone in another state senate district. You call them up and you tell them to do what they are. You read the bill, tell them what you like, and then if anything gets compromised out of it that you don't like, then you're going to hold that politician responsible.
Yeah, it's they're representatives. The premise here is government by the people. The people own the government, not the government owns the people.
But the thing is, you can't be passive. If you're passive, they just run all over you.
Sure, that's power.
And it doesn't take a lot of effort. And they have all these trips to Albany, but you can go to the local office too. Mm-hmm. You don't have to make this your lifetime thing, but it's kind of fun calling them up.
Look, there are people, in New York City, there are numerous elected officials who are supportive of legalization. And the New York City Council itself officially is on record in writing as supporting legalization. They started in 2015. So there are, one of the things that you mentioned about the parade is that we've had, I think, pretty good success in bringing elected officials who will participate in the event. Councilmember Rafa Espinal has spoken several years. Senator Jesse Hamilton, I understand he's controversial, but he sent a representative to speak last year. Former council speaker Melissa Mark Viverito spoke publicly in support of legalization. It was published, I think, in early 2015, possibly.
Right, but she's city council, and with the city council, what we've been advocating for is a cannabis buyers club, sort of based on the Oakland model, which if you'd like to explain that.
Well, I can't speak to. I mean, I'm not familiar with the Oakland model. I mean,
where
club, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
the idea is it's. I guess it's technically a cooperative or a collective.
Yeah,
model
basically.
in which there people are buying at cost. You know, they're not. I guess the idea is it's a not-for-profit. There's no profit involved.
Right. Basically, the city funds this. Gets a big warehouse where they grow pot for people who need it for medical reasons. You have to have a special card. You have to enroll. You may have to pay $3 or $4 an ounce. You know, you have to be sick.
And that's totally prohibited under the Compassionate Care Act.
Right.
That's one of the things. The whole like.
But the city could ask for a home rule, which means that we could set up a special rule that's independent of the state. Doesn't mean you're breaking away from the state, but home rule means that New York City could say, yes, we want to be part of this rule, but the Assembly and the Senate has to agree on it.
Right. I mean, you're talking about amending the home rule statute. That sounds right.
Well, the issue becomes that in New York City has, we counted them as like 20 state senators and Assembly,
right,
and the rest of the state has.
The balance,
42.
I know. But I mean, one of the big issues in New York State politics is the upstate downstate divide.
Right, and Buffalo, who also wants home rule on that, only has one state senator, one state assembly.
Wow.
So the whole state. So you could get your state senators to vote for it, but right now we're like surrounded and outnumbered.
So that's another possibility. So that's a perfect example of like picking. There's a knot. How do you untie the knot? So, sure, that's one way, and, presumably.
But check this out.
Something will change.
I testified before the New York State Assembly on marijuana, and I think Dana Beal brought up the Cannabis Buyers Club. So Crystal Peoples-Stokes' ears perked up, because she was paying attention, but, like sometimes you could tell when people are more.
Sure, they said.
And this is my impression, but she perked up because, and my guess, total speculation, is as a powerful Democrat, they could use these cannabis buyers clubs as patronage. It doesn't cost the city that much. I mean, just to put in some kind of ramp in the train station costs them $10 million. This is not going to cost nearly as much as that. You can give a few jobs in the neighborhood growing pot. So, and I know she was interested in it because later on she asked someone else about it.
Let me ask you a question. What is how does an elected official wants to go forward with a program like that? How do they justify, as a budgetary matter, the expense? The idea being that if the city does this, that the money that's put out will benefit the public in a sense, the particular population. It'll cut down on expenses with hospitalization. A public sector venture has to be justified some way in terms of public expenses. Private sector, you're in business. Walking through the idea.
Because you justify it in terms of health.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
You justify it in terms of jobs, of non-toxic jobs.
So
as opposed to like I'm in the South Bronx and they put this big shopping thing in there where people call up and it's created all kinds of added air pollution and stuff in the neighborhood that leads the country in childhood asthma. Whereas this is just a warehouse growing pot, which is actually cleaning the air.
Yeah.
It's more ecologically friendly.
So check it out.
So you get jobs, health, right?
So it sounds to me like what you're proposing is a full legalization market, a not-for-profit full legalization market prior to for-profit legalization.
Our big thing is, yes, we want to get rid of the profit motive as much as possible because the profit motive leads to all kinds of neuroses. You'll have increased pesticide use, profit motive might lead to GMO. So the greens are no GMO, no pesticide use, no manipulating THC levels so that one cigarette's stronger than the other, and then next thing you know, you smoke the weak cigarettes till you get to the strong one, and you don't know which is which. That's what they do with nicotine.
Huh. Okay.
They do that. And no additives. You could put your own additives, but you know, we don't want to put sawdust or maybe some other kind of pharmaceutical thing in there, angel dust. We don't want any additives. And also to get rid of that neurosis of profit, then you like you wouldn't have this big advertising thing in which you create the culture where maybe more kids.
So you're hitting on something I think is really critical.
Right.
People haven't described, which is commercialization.
Right.
It's a significant issue. That's my understanding is that's part of what kicked off the counter-revolution with the parents' movement in the late 70s was an attempt the promotion of a consumer market. Right? They're like putting the imagery out to, it's selling a lifestyle.
Right.
So, maybe.
Right. That's ridiculous. And all the people that are claiming pot is evil. Well, if you just make an average, ordinary thing, that's why the Greens are also advocating for homegrown, no taxation, but you cannot sell it and you cannot trade it away. All you can do is give it away. We're advocating for 99 plants or less. Yes, I said it, 99 plants or less. Because we want to undermine, it's a lot of plants. We want to undermine this whole notion that everything has to be commercial. We do want to tax, like if you're a hemp farmer and you're going to grow thousands of plants, we want to tax it at a reasonable rate, like gasoline tax is I looked this up. Gasoline tax is 4%. Clothing tax tends to be 4%. All of this stuff. So if you're going to make a competing product with hemp, it's got to be taxed at the same rate. We don't want special hemp taxes and hemp and cannabis and pot, same thing. There's no real difference. It's just a question of like a poodle or a Doberman.
There's Hoban, the Hoban Law Group is actually litigating that issue, and people try to keep them separate, because they're different legal considerations.
Right, but
same like family. They look the same anyway.
No, they're the same thing. The reason they were separated is a political maneuver by the hemp growers to disassociate it from the recreational users. So instead of unifying with the mass base, they split the base. And politically, without separating hemp from cannabis, I consider a setback because these two groups want the same thing and should have been advocating for the same thing.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we want the 99 plants. What else? Yeah.
I'm not advocating on behalf of the Greens.
No, I know, but so that's why we're advocating it. Does everything has to be turned into a commodities, like produced for sale?
So Paul, here's my thought.
Yeah.
This is a very important conversation that needs to happen generally. I think if you were to convene a public forum to talk about these issues, big picture issues, not, break out, you can bring in the cannabis people. There's a whole cannabis scene in the city right now. You could bring in other people, though, who are not, not specific to cannabis, who have ideas about, regulation, economy.
This leads us back to the pot march. Between 420 and May 5th, April 20, 420 International, we're supposed to do a whole bunch of events, celebrating the lead up to the march. So I am going to try to organize a panel discussion on exactly what we were talking about.
Sounds good.
We will give you more information on later shows, and we have to start wrapping it up.
Hello, everybody. This is Aron Kay, the Yippie Pie Thrower, on the new show, Weed, Not Weapons. This segment is called Pie Man Speaks. I'm here to share with you some stuff about a cool dude named Dennis Peron. Dennis Peron, who passed away recently, was the author of Proposition 215, which won on the ballot in California. Therefore, medical marijuana became legal. And then his partner, Brownie Mary, made herself famous because of the plagues of the AIDS epidemic. She would take pot and bake it into cookies, brownies, all kinds of delicacies. So the AIDS patients and cancer patients could live out their days comfortably. Dennis and Mary would get busted several times for this. And every time medical marijuana came up in front of a jury, the jury would acquit them. Therefore, the San Francisco police finally backed off because they saw they weren't going to get anywhere with Dennis or Mary. They realized that medical marijuana was a necessity.
What was the relationship to Harvey Milk?
Dennis and Harvey Milk, you know, were big prime movers in the Castro Street gay community. Harvey was the first gay supervisor in San Francisco's Board of Supervisors. He was an ex-New Yorker who moved to Castro Street. He opened up a camera shop. The gays would meet at his store. Then Harvey became a member of the Board of Supervisors. And that lasted until November 78, when ex-supervisor Dan White killed Mayor George Moscone and Harvey Milk because they wouldn't give White his job back. White resigned from the Board of Supervisors. And the mayor would not give him his job back. Therefore, he blew away the mayor and Harvey Milk. And meanwhile, Dennis would have a whole trip going in the city of San Francisco with his Buyers Club and his Big Top Supermarket and the Allen Cafe. A lot of his clientele included lawyers and judges, doctors and teachers. He took care of the masses. In fall 77, I met Dennis at the Day on the Grass. It was the local smoke-in over at San Francisco's Civic Center. I spoke at it. Dennis spoke at it. I believe Harvey Milk spoke at the event. Ex-Mayor Willie Brown spoke at the event. It was a success, basically speaking. Meanwhile, Dennis was on trial for sales of pot and acid to some undercover police officers. And eventually he did do 6 months in San Bruno. On the other hand, I met Dennis, and I then saw him a month later at the Normal Conference in Washington, D.C. Normal is the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, which is a pot lobby based out of Washington, D.C. And Yippie organizer Dana Beal flew out to speak at a benefit for Dennis. And of course, it was the beginning of a long-term period of fun, revolution, and games. A couple years later, that was May '79. It was around the time of Dan White was tried for the murder of Harvey Milk and George Moscone. Dana and I spoke at another day on the grass at Civic Center. The next day, the jury gave Dan White a watered-down conviction. All hell broke loose in the streets of San Francisco. It was called White Night. The gays and the community rioted. I was in the riot. Dennis was in the riot. Paul Kantner from the Jefferson Airplane was in the riot. We were all trashing police cars. Pot and the gay trip are part of the revolution, irrevocably speaking. But I remember that night, White Night. Cop cars on fire, all hell breaking loose. Other people who were from New York who shall remain unnamed were also involved in the trashing, as I was. I was asked not to name these people. But I can say Ed Rosenthal was there in the crowd, author of the Marijuana Grower's Guide, and this writer named Rex Weiner was there.
Plus Ed Rosenthal was the Ask Ed columnist for High Times.
Yes, Ed Rosenthal did the Ask Ed column in High Times magazine. And Ed had been busted a few times. We had a great event, May '79, the May '79 Smokin', where Dana and I had a hash line going. At that time, there were gas lines because of the oil glut. Well, there was a hash glut, so we had people lining up and buying hash from us at the Smokin', $5 a gram. And guess who was standing next to me, pinching a little now and then? The late Marmaduke from the New Riders of the Purple Sage was there, standing next to me, and I'd slip him a couple of grams for the fun. And of course, everybody enjoyed the hash. And then what happened was, some people tried to steal the slab of hash, and we chased them down and got it back. You should have seen Dana chasing the guy down with a whole bunch of people at the event.
Explain who Dana Beal is.
Dana Beal is the organizer of Cures Not Wars and the Pop March, and also he's the prime mover for Ibogaine.
Finish this story and then go into the Pop March.
Yes, and then anyway, this was great. We got the stuff back, and a lot of the garbage that was thrown at the cops the next night was garbage left over from the smoking the day before, because the city sanitation department did not get the garbage in time. So it was yippee garbage that was thrown at Silly Hall, because they were pretty silly for screwing up with the case.
So
They,
you mentioned Dana. Talk about the Pop March now.
anyway, Dana organized the first smoke-in. Let's check my message here.
No, you don't.
Yeah, okay. Dana organized the first smoke-in in '67 at Tompkins Square Park. There was trouble between the hippies and the Puerto Ricans over the neighborhood. So Dana came up with the idea of the smoking, because both hippies and Puerto Ricans love pot. And the Grateful...
What year was this?
There was '67. The Grateful Dead played there too. And one day. And I knew two of the people who were involved. They're not with us now. A woman named Calico and a fellow named Steve Krause, who were the MCs of the show. And Dana had 2 storefronts on East First Street, and he was involved with a group called the Provos.
They were the Dutch.
Yes, yes, it was a Dutch version of the
Dutch
Yippies.
White Party.
Yes. Anyway, Dana gets busted, and he goes away for a while. He goes underground for a few years. That part I'll go into later on.
Well, we'll have Dana on the show.
Yes, when Dana will talk to you people about that. But on the other hand, Dennis.
Well, let's talk about this year's pot march.
Anyway, this year's march is going to be on May 5th. Saturday, May 5th, going from Midtown, 31st and Broadway, down to Union Square. We'll be having speakers, we'll be having music, and we're going to be having our customary march down Broadway.
Howie Hawkins.
And we do have Howie Hawkins, who was the gubernatorial candidate from the Greens, has come to speak. I'll be speaking.
Weren't you one of the founders of the Greens?
What?
In New York?
Well, me?
Yeah.
Other people were before me.
Okay, but talk about how you were at the early meetings.
Okay, I remember going to the early meetings back in '85. At that time, we had the likes of Lorna Saltzperson.
Okay, that's bad news. But
How about Lorna
don't spend a lot of
Saltzperson?
time on her.
No, she was a reactionary who left the Greens. Enough on Saltzperson. But the Greens are into grassroots organizing. I mean, the Greens are left to the Democratic Party. The Democrats are a bunch of washed up fools.
The pot march is not a green event.
No, the pot march.
But we're Greens in
No, the
pot
Greens are part of the pot coalition.
march. Exactly.
There are other groups who are also part of the coalition. People from Albany.
But this show is green centered.
Yeah, but the show is green accented.
Yeah. Okay, good.
But this year we plan to have music. We plan to have a lot of good people coming in to partake in this. And also, around that same time in May, other cities will be holding the Million Marijuana March. Toronto, San Francisco, Brazil, Tel Aviv, London, Paris, even Moscow had it. Rome, Germany.
Some of these events, Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires is big. I've seen the
They
pictures
have
of Buenos Aires.
like 200,000 people there.
I know about Buenos
How
Aires.
many people do they have in Buenos Aires?
I think 250,000.
Okay.
And I think Rio had a big crowd, and Sao Paulo had a big crowd.
Damn. So
And-
New York, let's top them.
Yeah, listen, we should top those cities, because right now we've been very small on a numeric scale.
Say we're medium sized now.
We're in the middle now, but we got to grow. Whether it be, I think it'd be nice to outdo Toronto and Buenos Aires.
You see, the pot march.
Yeah, the Pop March has been around since '67. The first one in New York City was in '71, when they marched from Washington Square to Central Park. And it grew every year. We used to march from Washington Square to Central Park.
We got some videotape of that.
And there are videos of that.
I was at some of those.
We all were some of those back in those
I was a
days.
teenager.
And I remember my first one in New York City was April '73. I was 23 years old. I only missed one out of the events. That was spring '75. I missed that one. But I have not missed a New York City march.
Well, could you talk about the significance? In other words, we created a culture that normalized.
Yes.
That we took it.
No.
We took it from a fringe issue.
We took it
made
from.
a
We took it.
mainstream issue.
We took it from a fringe issue, and now it's become a mass issue.
Right.
Because look how many people light up. You go to a posh party anywhere in New York City, people are going to light up. Even if de Blasio's at a party, somebody's going to light up at the party, but they're going to
Just to deal with him.
Just to deal with him. There was a picture of me approaching Mayor Koch with a joint and blowing in his face. And Koch says to me, "Why do you got to be so obnoxious?" Yeah, and I said, "Well, you're obnoxious." That was my answer.
He was obnoxious.
He was obnoxious. Chicken Face was obnoxious. That was my nickname for him. And
what about when they put on his grave, "How am I doing?"
Yes, how's he doing down there? Well,
That was the same. How am I doing?
do you know what the answer was at the time?
What?
The worms are having him for supper. Ed Koch. But then remember what Koch brought us. When he became mayor, he brought us Koch rot. Because prior to Koch, we didn't have gentrification kicking in.
What was Koch's attitude towards the pot march?
He was he'd go back and forth, but in '82 he had the pot squad busting the people in Washington Square Park selling joints and bags. He went ballistics.
I remember that.
Yeah, or somebody tried to sell him a bag and he had him busted.
He busted my younger brother.
Personally?
No. Well, my younger brother at the pot march, this might have, in Washington Square, blew pot smoke right in the cop's face.
Oh.
And the cop arrested him. And my younger brother was 15,
Yeah.
300 pounds, and they took him in a van.
Yeah.
My younger brother, they said, "Well, what was your name?" He said, "My name is Flaco Mendoza."
Yeah.
Flaco means skinny in Spanish.
Yeah.
None of us here are skinny.
Right.
And of course, he's a white kid.
Yeah.
They gave him the wrong address. They let him go.
They let him walk.
They let him walk. He finds me and his real brother.
Yeah.
And he starts bragging about it. Then he runs home. He calls his father. He's all proud of
Yeah.
himself. And that's one of the golden moments. The thing about these pot marches is that there's always a golden moment.
Yes, there is.
Even when something happens, you don't regret going there.
No. I mean, listen. There are all kinds of unusual things happening at these pot marches.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I still remember the one in 77 in D.C. where we tried to turn ourselves in for one joint each, and the cops wouldn't take us. We'd go up and blow it right in their faces. And that was during the Carter administration. It shows some of it in a movie called Smokin', where here's this all going, "Jimmy, take a toke."
What was Julie Annis's attitude towards the pot?
So Julie Annis acted like a total anus.
Julie Annis.
He acted like a total anus. You know.
He kicked us out of Washington Square Park.
We got run out of Washington Square after '96. They relegated us to Battery Park, and in Battery Park the cops acted pretty mean and rough.
They started a riot there.
The cops started it, and one day they
I
actually.
was on stage when they started.
Remember, one day they actually grabbed 300 people.
Yes.
And and they had these plainclothes cops who were brutes.
Yep.
I remember one day.
They dressed in yuppie polo shirts.
No, I'll tell you what happened one day. We were in the middle of cleanup after the event. Cop is playing with a rock, just throwing it around. And I'm walking through there, nonchalant. Rock almost hit me in the head. Oh, that cop seemed offensive. He was forced to apologize to me. Because I said, "Somebody through this almost hit me in the head." You know, I shouted at them.
So Giuliani, he kicked us out of the park.
Yeah.
Family out of Washington Square Park.
Yeah.
He made Family Day. We wound up in Battery Park. But the last few ones, we wound up in Union Square.
Yeah, because Giuliani and Bloomberg both played hardball with us.
Yeah.
But Giuliani was the worst.
Remember, Recently, there's been no
No,
arrest.
recently, the cops have been pretty much hands off on
There
this.
hasn't been an arrest in 4 years.
No, in 4 or 5 years there hasn't been a bust.
It's been this peaceful, joyous
Yeah,
celebration.
and they've been on the cops have been behaving themselves.
Well, because it comes after May Day, in which they have to spend 3 hours listening to communists yell "fuck you" at them.
Yeah, and they'd rather hear us play music than this.
Yeah, it's a day off for them. It's just a walk.
It's just a walk in, it's music.
They don't care.
And no, there's another reason too, because it's male cops. They see all the there's something sexist about it too.
Yeah.
They see all these young college and high school women.
Yeah.
So some of them walking with their shirts off
Some
on the march.
provocatively.
Yes,
But we support women's rights.
we
Don't
support
harass women.
we support the right for women to do that safely, not to be harassed.
Right. We don't want to harass them. We denounce all the harassment.
No, we don't know. We're not in harassment. But like a woman wants to walk with her shirt off safely, it's her business. You know. I mean, just show these sisters respect. That's all. That's not asking much. But we've been had so far. It's been a good march.
It's more like a Mardi Gras season.
It's more like a mini Mardi Gras at Union Square. Basically, people selling shirts, selling buttons,
Smoking pot.
smoking weed, dancing to music,
No
just
alcohol.
no booze.
No booze.
But everybody's having a good time and getting along, and it's multiracial.
Yes.
And
Hip
everybody,
hop and hippies.
hip hop, hippies, reggae,
Reggae.
the works. Everybody's having a blast at Union Square.
It's like a love fest.
It's like a 2018 version of a 60s Love-In. I was involved with the Love-Ins at Griffith Park in L.A., and I remember those, and I miss those. Because those were pretty much raunchy in its own way. You know, people came from all over L.A. to do that.
All right, let's stick to the pop.
But now, in regard to the march, we're lining up at around high noon at 31st and Broadway. Around 1 o'clock, 1:30, we're marching down
I
Broadway.
think we exited like between 12 and 12:30 is when we marched to Union
Okay,
Square.
anyway, you know, between 12 and 1, I'll say. Between 12 and 1, we're going to be marching to Union Square.
And can you give a shout out to Noah and Steve Bloom?
You get Noah Potter.
The director.
I'm giving a shout out to Noah Potter for helping do the legal work, and Steve Bloom for helping with the stage acts, and Troy Smiths. I mean, that's the choreography team. Basically, it's our own yippie rock. It's our own yippie rock opera.
And Ford.
What?
Ford.
Who?
Ford.
Ford.
Does he get the talent?
And he brings us the music. You know, I remember we've had Redman there. We've had David Peel, but Peel is not with us. Peel passed away. You know. I mean, some people, you know, look at him as being very controversial this year. I'm sure we'll have some surprises.
To be announced.
And the surprises will be announced at the right time.
Hey.
It's better to coordinate to have a nice event.
All right, let's finish with the cops. Let's end. We got to get going. Let's end on a high note.
Yeah.
R.I.P. the great Dennis Peron.
Okay, Dennis. We miss Dennis. Dennis passed away due to lung cancer and Agent Orange.
Yeah.
I miss Dennis
He was
because
a Vietnam War vet.
because Dennis helped a lot of people. I was stranded in San Francisco the last time, about 8 years ago. He did give me some money to get back, so I can get a plane back. That was when I went and spoke at the West Fest Summer of Love reunion.
Okay. And then promote the cannabis march.
So anyway, I hope to see you all at the march, May 5th.
We'll Will you
But
be speaking there?
I'll be speaking there. Kim Krepp will be speaking there.
Yes.
Paul Gilman, Dana Beal, among others.
Howie Hawkins.
Howie Hawkins from the Green Party. There'll be,
Dennis Gottfried.
oh yeah, Assemblyman Richard Gottfried will definitely be speaking there.
What does he do? The Gottfried bill.
He was the one who got the pot laws changed.
Well, no, he didn't. Yeah,
Yeah, he did. Yeah, back
started the process.
he started the process in '77 when they enacted the law. 7/8 of an ounce was a $100 fine.
Right.
And I'm sure there'll be other officials. And also, I remember one year we had that guy from Philly. I forgot his name in the police uniform.
Peter Lewis.
Oh,
Peter Lewis.
Peter Lewis, who was an ex-cop who joined us at Occupy Wall Street, spoke in his police uniform. I'm inviting
Look at the camera.
I'm inviting
Hold it
you
up,
all.
Like, give it a.
I'm inviting you all to come to the Pot March, Saturday, May 5th, 2018.
Aron Kay.
My name's Aron Kay. You've been listening to Pie Man Speaks. I will see you on the march.